a professional woman in her mid-30s, Karoline Leavitt, sitting at a cluttered office desk with papers scattered around. She looks stressed and upset, her hands covering her face as tears well up in her eyes. The office is modern but sterile, with gray walls and fluorescent lighting casting a cold glow. Behind her, a middle-aged man, Howard Klein, stands near the doorway with his arms crossed, wearing an expression of smug satisfaction. His posture exudes authority and condescension. In the background, other employees are visible through glass partitions, some looking concerned while others pretend not to notice. The atmosphere feels tense and uncomfortable. Karoline Leavitt sat at her desk, staring blankly at the computer screen in front of her. Her mind raced, trying to make sense of what had just happened. The office buzzed with its usual noise, phones ringing, keyboards clicking, people chatting, but none of it registered with her. All she could hear was the echo of Howard Klein's voice, sharp and cutting, replaying over and over again in her head. "You're fired," he had said, his tone icy and final. Those two words felt like a punch to the gut, not because she hadn't seen it coming. Howard had been difficult to work with for months, but because of how he delivered the news. There was no empathy, no acknowledgement of all the hard work she had put into this job. Just those two cruel words, followed by him turning on his heel and walking away without another glance. Karoline blinked back tears, trying to stay composed. She glanced around the room, hoping nobody would notice her crumbling facade. But it was impossible to hide. Her co-workers were already sneaking curious looks in her direction. Some pretended to focus on their screens while others openly stared, whispering behind cupped hands. It wasn't every day someone got fired so publicly. She reached for a tissue from the box on her desk and dabbed at her eyes, then forced herself to take a deep breath. This wasn't the end of the world, she told herself. People lost jobs all the time. They picked themselves up and moved on. But that thought didn't bring much comfort right now. This job had meant everything to her. For years, she had poured her heart and soul into Greenfield Industries, working long hours, sacrificing weekends, and missing family dinners, all to prove herself. And for what? To be dismissed so callously? Her hands trembled as she began packing her things into a cardboard box. Photos of her husband, Daniel, and their dog went first, followed by a few personal knickknacks, a small potted plant, a mug with a motivational quote printed on it, and a stack of notebooks filled with ideas she'd jotted down during meetings. Every item seemed to carry a memory, each one reminding her of happier times when she believed she was making a difference here. As she worked, snippets of the argument played back in her mind. Howard had stormed into her office earlier that morning, demanding answers about why her department's budget proposal didn't align with his vision. He accused her of being resistant to change, of clinging to outdated methods. When she tried to explain her reasoning, he cut her off, raising his voice until she stopped talking altogether. That's when he dropped the bombshell. "I don't think you're the right fit for this company anymore." The word stung more than she cared to admit. Was she really that expendable? Had all her efforts been for nothing? She clenched her jaw, refusing to let the tears fall again. No matter how angry or hurt she felt, she wouldn't give Howard the satisfaction of seeing her completely break down. By the time she finished packing, the box was overflowing. She stood up slowly, cradling it awkwardly in her arms, and took one last look around the office. Memories flooded back. The late nights spent brainstorming with her team, the celebrations after landing big contracts, the quiet moments when she allowed herself to dream about climbing the corporate ladder. Now those dreams felt shattered. Walking toward the elevator, she kept her gaze fixed ahead, avoiding eye contact with anyone. Still, she could feel the weight of their stares following her. A knot formed in her stomach as she pressed the button and waited for the doors to open. When they finally did, she stepped inside, letting out a shaky sigh once the doors closed behind her. The ride down to the lobby felt endless. Karoline leaned against the wall, clutching the box tightly. She replayed the events of the morning in her mind, searching for something, anything, that might have changed the outcome. If only she hadn't pushed back during the meeting. If only she had agreed with Howard instead of standing her ground. But deep down, she knew she couldn't blame herself entirely. Howard had made up his mind before even stepping foot in her office. When the elevator doors opened, she hesitated for a moment before stepping out. The lobby was bustling with activity, people rushing in and out, oblivious to her turmoil. She walked toward the exit, feeling the cool air hit her face as she pushed through the glass doors. Outside, the sun shone brightly, contrasting sharply, with the storm raging inside her. For a brief second, she considered calling Daniel. He would know exactly what to say to cheer her up. But she decided against it. She needed to process this on her own first, to let the initial wave of shock and anger subside before burdening him with her emotions. Instead, she climbed into her car, placed the box on the passenger seat, and drove home in silence, wondering what tomorrow would bring, and whether she still had the strength to fight for her future. A cozy living room with warm lighting, featuring a comfortable couch and a wooden coffee table. Karoline Leavitt sits on the couch, her face tear-streaked but calm, holding a cup of tea in both hands. Across from her, Daniel, her husband, listens intently with a supportive expression. He leans forward slightly, his elbows resting on his knees, as he offers words of reassurance. The atmosphere is intimate and comforting, with soft shadows creating a sense of safety. On the coffee table lies an open laptop showing a job search website, symbolizing hope and new beginnings. Karoline arrived home later than usual that afternoon, her car pulling into the driveway with a heavy sigh. She sat there for a moment, staring at the steering wheel, trying to gather the courage to step out of the vehicle. The weight of the day pressed down on her shoulders like an invisible burden. Finally, she grabbed the cardboard box from the passenger seat and trudged up the front steps to her house. The door creaked open, and she was greeted by the familiar scent of lavender candles, mixed with the faint aroma of dinner cooking in the kitchen. Daniel must have heard her come in because he appeared almost immediately, wiping his hands on a dish towel, his brow furrowed when he saw the box in her arms and the sadness etched across her face. "What happened?" he asked gently, stepping closer to take the box from her. Karoline hesitated, unsure where to begin. The events of the morning felt surreal now, like they belonged to someone else's life. But as she looked into Daniel's kind eyes, the dam broke. Tears spilled over and she collapsed onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. Daniel sat beside her, placing a comforting arm around her shoulders. "They fired me," she choked out between sobs. "Howard just walked in, yelled at me, and said I wasn't the right fit anymore." Daniel listened silently, letting her vent without interrupting. When she finally ran out of words, he squeezed her hand and said, "I'm so sorry you had to go through that, but you're stronger than this, Karoline. We'll figure it out together." His calm demeanor helped steady her shaking nerves. Over. The next hour, she recounted every detail of the confrontation, the accusations, the raised voices, the cold dismissal. As she spoke, Daniel nodded thoughtfully, occasionally offering murmurs of encouragement. Unlike Howard, who always seemed eager to cut people off, Daniel gave her space to express herself fully. When she finished, he stood up and disappeared into the kitchen, returning moments later with 2 steaming mugs of tea. He handed one to Karoline and sat back down beside her. "You've worked so hard for that company," he said. "And none of this is your fault. Sometimes people just don't appreciate talent when they see it." Karoline managed a weak smile. "Thanks, Daniel. I don't know what I'd do without you." "You'll never have to find out," he replied firmly. Then after a pause, he added, "What if we turned this into an opportunity? You've always talked about starting your own business someday. Maybe now's the time." The idea caught her off guard. Starting her own business? It sounded impossible, especially after such a demoralizing day. Yet, as she sipped her tea and let the warmth spread through her chest, a tiny spark of hope flickered to life. Could she really turn this setback into something positive? "I don't even know where to start," she admitted quietly. "I wouldn't have the resources or the money." Daniel leaned forward, his expression growing serious yet encouraging. "We'll figure it out," he repeated. "I can help with some of the technical stuff, and maybe we can reach out to a few people I know who might be able to guide us." "You're not alone in this, Karoline." She nodded slowly, feeling a bit lighter than before. For the first time, Since leaving the office, she allowed herself to imagine a future beyond Greenfield Industries. What would her business look like? Who would her clients be? These questions excited her more than she expected. After finishing their tea, Daniel suggested they sit down at the dining table and brainstorm ideas. He brought out a notepad and pen, along with his laptop, which he opened to a blank document. Together they began jotting down thoughts. Potential servicey. A small modern coffee shop with large windows letting in natural light. Daniel sits at a corner table with Richard, an older man with glasses and a friendly smile. Between them is a sleek laptop displaying a futuristic AI interface on the screen. Steam rises from 2 cups of coffee placed on the table. The atmosphere is casual but focused, with soft chatter in the background. A notebook and pen lie next to the laptop, filled with scribbles of ideas and diagrams. The next morning, Daniel woke up early, determined to help Karoline turn her dream into reality. He kissed her goodbye as she prepared breakfast, promising he'd be back soon with good news. She smiled weakly, still feeling uncertain about the road ahead, but his confidence gave her hope. As he drove to meet Richard, his old college friend, Daniel rehearsed what he would say. This meeting could change everything. Richard owned a tech startup that specialized in cutting-edge artificial intelligence systems. Though they hadn't seen each other in years, Daniel knew Richard was the kind of person who loved solving problems and helping others succeed. When Daniel called him the previous night, explaining Karoline's situation, Richard immediately agreed to meet. The coffee shop where they arranged to meet was quiet and cozy, perfect for a serious conversation. Daniel spotted Richard sitting at a corner table, his laptop already open. Richard waved when he saw Daniel approach, his warm smile putting Daniel at ease right away. "Thanks for coming," Daniel said as he sat down. "I really appreciate it." "No problem," Richard replied, pushing a cup of coffee toward Daniel. "You sounded pretty serious on the phone. Tell me everything." Daniel took a deep breath and began explaining how Karoline had been fired unfairly and how it crushed her spirit, at least at first. Then he described their brainstorming session the night before and how Karoline dreamed of starting her own consulting business. But there was one big hurdle. She didn't have access to the tools or resources needed to compete in such a competitive industry. "That's where you come in," Daniel continued. "I remember you telling me about that AI system you've been working on. Could it help someone like Karoline?" Richard leaned back in his chair, tapping his fingers thoughtfully against the edge of the table. "Actually, yes," he said after a moment. "It's not ready for public release yet, but it's designed to analyze data, predict market trends, and even assist with client proposals. If anyone could use it effectively, it'd be someone smart and driven like your wife." Daniel's eyes lit up. "Really? You'd let us borrow it?" "Absolutely," Richard said with a grin. "Consider it my way of supporting small businesses. Besides, I trust you. And if Karoline's anything like you say she is, I'm sure she'll make the most of it." Over the next hour, Richard walked Daniel through the basics of the AI system. He showed him how it worked, demonstrating its ability to streamline tasks that would normally take hours or even days to complete. The interface was user-friendly, designed to adapt to the needs of whoever was using it. By the end of the demonstration, Daniel felt more optimistic than ever. "But here's the thing," Richard added, growing serious. "This isn't just a tool, it's a responsibility. It can handle complex calculations and provide insights, but it still requires human judgment. Karoline will need to guide it and make the final decisions." "I understand," Daniel said firmly. "She's incredibly capable. Once she gets the hang of it, I know she'll do amazing things." Before leaving, Richard handed Daniel a slim tablet preloaded with the AI software. "Take this home and show it to her. Let me know if you need any more help setting it up." He paused, then added, "And tell Karoline I believe in her. Starting a business is tough, but with the right mindset and the right tools, she can succeed." On the drive back home, Daniel couldn't stop smiling. He held the tablet carefully on his lap, imagining Karoline's reaction when he showed it to her. For the first time since she lost her job, he felt like they had a real plan, a chance to build something incredible together. When he arrived home, Karoline was in the living room flipping through a magazine. She looked up when he walked in, her expression curious. "How did it go?" she asked. Daniel set the tablet on the coffee table and told her everything, about Richard, the AI system, and how it could revolutionize the way she worked. At first, Karoline seemed skeptical. "Are you sure this isn't too much trouble for him?" she asked. "We barely know him." "He's happy to help," Daniel assured her. "And besides, think of it as a test run. If this works, we can pay him back later." Karoline hesitated, then picked up the tablet and turned it on. The sleek interface appeared on the screen, and Richard's instructions popped up automatically, guiding her through the basics. As she explored the features, her skepticism slowly gave way to excitement. This could actually work," she murmured, scrolling through the different functions. "With this, I could create detailed reports, track market trends, and even draft proposals in half the time." Daniel grinned. "Exactly. And once clients see what you're capable of, they won't care about Greenfield Industries anymore. They'll want you." For the rest of the afternoon, they experimented with the AI system together, learning how it worked and brainstorming ways Karoline could use it to stand out in her field. By dinner time, she was buzzing with ideas, jotting notes furiously in her notebook. As they sat down to eat, Karoline looked across the table at Daniel, gratitude shining in her eyes. "Thank you," she said softly, "for believing in me, for doing all this." He reached over and squeezed her hand. "We're a team, remember? Whatever happens, we'll face it together." That night, as they lay in bed, Karoline stared at the ceiling, her mind racing with possibilities. Tomorrow would bring challenges, of course. Starting a business wasn't easy, but for the first time in days, she felt truly hopeful. With Daniel by her side and the AI system as her new ally, she was ready to take on the world. A modest suburban driveway on a sunny morning, with a gleaming silver Rolls-Royce parked near the curb. The car reflects the sunlight, drawing attention to its luxurious design. Karoline Leavitt stands in the doorway of her home, wearing casual clothes and looking shocked as she stares at the vehicle. Her husband, Daniel, stands beside her with a proud smile, holding a set of car keys in one hand. In the background, their small house is visible, contrasting with the opulence of the Rolls-Royce. The next morning, Karoline woke up earlier than usual, feeling restless. She had spent most of the night thinking about the AI system and how it could transform her plans. While she was excited, part of her still doubted whether she was ready to take such a big step. Starting her own business wasn't just about having the right tools. It also meant proving herself all over again. She shuffled into the kitchen where Daniel was already making breakfast. He greeted her with a cheerful smile, but something about his expression seemed different today, like he was hiding a secret. "What's going on?" Karoline asked, narrowing her eyes playfully. "You look like you're up to something." "Me? No. Nothing," Daniel replied innocently, though his grin gave him away. Karoline raised an eyebrow but decided not to press further. Instead, she poured herself a cup of coffee and joined him at the table. They chatted lightly about the day ahead, though Karoline couldn't shake the feeling that Daniel was keeping something from her. After breakfast, Daniel suggested they go outside for some fresh air. "Come on," he said, grabbing his jacket. "Let's stretch our legs." Curious but willing to follow along, Karoline slipped on her shoes and stepped out onto the porch. The moment she opened the door, her jaw dropped. Parked in the driveway was a gleaming silver Rolls-Royce, its polished surface catching the sunlight. It looked completely out of place in their quiet suburban neighborhood, surrounded by modest cars and neatly trimmed lawns. "What is that?" Karoline stammered, pointing at the car. "It's yours," Daniel said simply, handing her a set of keys. His tone was calm, but there was a hint of pride in his voice. "Mine?" Karoline exclaimed, turning to face him. "Are you serious? Where did this even come from?" Daniel chuckled, clearly enjoying her reaction. "I bought it yesterday while you were working with the AI system. I figured if you're going to start your own business, you might as well make an impression. But, but we can't afford this, Karoline protested, shaking her head in disbelief. How did you even pay for it? I sold my old Mustang, Daniel explained. It wasn't worth much, but combined with some savings, it was enough to get this. Don't worry, I got a good deal. Karoline stared at him, torn between gratitude and guilt. Daniel, that car meant so much to you. You've had it since college. He shrugged, brushing off her concern. It's just a car. What matters is supporting you. Besides, I think this will help boost your confidence. Imagine pulling up to meetings in a Rolls Royce. People will take you seriously before you even say a word. For a long moment, Karoline didn't know what to say. The gesture was overwhelming, not just because of the car itself, but because of what it represented. Daniel believed in her so deeply that he was willing to give up something he loved to help her succeed. Finally, she managed to choke out, "Thank you." Her voice cracked slightly, and tears welled up in her eyes. I don't know what I did to deserve you. You deserve everything, Daniel said softly, pulling her into a hug. Now let's take it for a spin. With trembling hands, Karoline took the keys and walked toward the Rolls-Royce. A modern home office setup bathed in soft afternoon light. Karoline Leavitt sits at a sleek desk, her face glowing with focus as she works on a laptop displaying an advanced AI interface. Beside the laptop is a tablet showing graphs and data, trends. A notebook filled with handwritten notes lies open on the desk next to a cup of coffee. The room is cozy, yet professional, with shelves lined with books and motivational quotes on the walls. Through the window, the silver Rolls-Royce parked in the driveway is visible, symbolizing her newfound confidence and determination. Karoline spent the next few weeks diving headfirst into building her new business. Every morning, she woke up early, fueled by a mix of excitement and nerves. The Rolls-Royce had become more than just a car. It was a reminder of how far she'd come and how much further she could go. But it wasn't just about appearances. It was about proving to herself that she was capable of succeeding on her own terms. Her days began in the home office Daniel helped her set up. It was a small but functional space with a desk facing the window so she could glance outside whenever she needed a moment to think. On the desk sat her laptop, preloaded with Richard's AI system, along with the tablet Daniel had brought home. The AI quickly became her most valuable tool, analyzing market trends, drafting proposals, and even helping her identify potential clients. At first, using the AI felt overwhelming. The system was powerful, and there was so much to learn. But Karoline tackled it piece by piece, spending hours each day experimenting with its features. She started small, creating mock reports and presentations to practice. Slowly but surely, she grew more comfortable, discovering how to use the AI to streamline tasks that would have taken days to complete manually. Daniel checked in often, offering encouragement and troubleshooting any technical issues. "You're doing great," he told her one evening as they reviewed her progress over dinner. "In no time, you'll be ready to pitch your services to real clients." Karoline nodded, though she still felt a twinge of doubt. "I know I can handle the work, but what if people don't take me seriously? What if they think I'm just some woman who got lucky?" "You earned this," Daniel reminded her firmly. "Every bit of it. And once they see what you're capable of, they won't care about anything else." His words stuck with her, and she resolved to push past her insecurities. Over the next few days, she reached out to former colleagues and industry contacts, explaining that she was starting her own consulting firm. To her surprise, many of them were supportive, praising her skills and wishing her luck. A few even expressed interest in working with her. One contact, a woman named Laura, offered to introduce Karoline to a local entrepreneur looking for guidance on expanding his startup. "He's been struggling with strategy," Laura explained during their phone call. "I think you could really help him." Karoline accepted the opportunity eagerly, seeing it as her chance to prove herself. She spent the following days preparing, tirelessly, using the AI to analyze the entrepreneur's market and develop tailored recommendations. By the time the meeting arrived, she felt confident in her proposal. On the day of the meeting, Karoline climbed into the Rolls-Royce, smoothing her blazer as she drove to the client's office. As she pulled into the parking lot, she took a deep breath, reminding herself of all the hard work she'd put into this moment. When she stepped out of the car, heads turned, not just because of the luxurious vehicle, but because of the calm authority she exuded. The meeting went better than she could have hoped. The entrepreneur listened intently as she presented her ideas, nodding along and asking thoughtful questions. By the end, he shook her hand firmly, thanking her for her insights and agreeing to move forward with her plan. Driving home that evening, Karoline felt a sense of accomplishment she hadn't experienced in years. This wasn't just a win for her business, it was proof that she could succeed without relying on anyone else. Word of mouth spread quickly after that. More clients began reaching out, impressed by her expertise and professionalism. With each project, Karoline refined her approach, learning how to balance the AI's capabilities with her own instincts. Soon, Leavitt Solutions gained traction, earning recognition in local business circles. Despite her growing success, Karoline remained grounded. She knew the road ahead wouldn't always be smooth, but she also knew she had everything she needed to overcome challenges: her skills, the AI system, and Daniel's unwavering support. One evening, as she sat in her office reviewing client feedback, she glanced out the window at the Rolls-Royce gleaming in the driveway. For a moment, she allowed herself to reflect on how much had changed since Howard fired her. Back then, she had felt defeated, unsure of her future. Now she was in control, building something entirely her own. Karoline smiled softly, closing her laptop for the night. Tomorrow would bring new opportunities and new challenges, but she was ready. For the first time in a long time, she truly believed in herself. A high-end restaurant with dim lighting and elegant decor. Karoline Leavitt sits at a table, dressed in professional attire, her expression calm but guarded. Across from her sits Howard Klein, wearing a suit and tie, his face tense as he tries to mask his discomfort. Between them is an uneaten plate of food, symbolizing the awkwardness of their meeting. In the background, other diners are visible, creating a subtle hum of conversation. The atmosphere is formal, yet charged with tension. Months passed, and Karoline's business continued to grow. Leavitt Solutions became well known in the industry, earning praise for its innovative strategies and personalized approach. Karoline had transformed from someone who doubted herself into a confident leader who inspired trust in her clients. Even Daniel marveled at how much she had changed, often teasing her about how unstoppable she seemed. One afternoon, while reviewing emails at her desk, Karoline noticed a message from an unfamiliar address. She opened it cautiously, only to find an invitation from none other than Howard Klein. He wanted to meet for lunch, claiming he regretted firing her and hoped they could collaborate on a project. Karoline stared at the screen, unsure how to react. Part of her wanted to delete the email without a second thought. Howard didn't deserve another chance to speak to her. But curiosity got the better of her. Why would he reach out now, after all this time? And what did he mean by collaborate? Against her better judgment, she replied, agreeing to meet him at a nearby restaurant. The day of the meeting arrived, and Karoline prepared carefully. She chose her sharpest blazer and styled her hair neatly, determined to look every bit the successful professional she had become. As she drove to the restaurant in the Rolls-Royce, she reminded herself not to let Howard rattle her. Whatever he said, she wouldn't let him undermine her confidence again. When she walked into the restaurant, Howard was already seated at a table near the window. He stood up when he saw her, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Karoline," he said, extending a hand, "thank you for coming." She shook his hand briefly, noting how stiff and rehearsed his tone sounded. "Howard," she replied coolly, taking her seat. They ordered drinks, and for a few moments, there was an uncomfortable silence. Finally, Howard cleared his throat and began speaking. "I've been following your success," he said, leaning forward slightly. "You've done incredible work since we parted ways." Karoline raised an eyebrow, unimpressed by his attempt at flattery. "Is that why you asked me here? To congratulate me?" No, Howard said quickly, shaking his head. I wanted to apologize for how things ended between us. Firing you was a mistake, one I deeply regret. You were one of our best employees, and I should have handled things differently. Karoline studied him carefully, searching for sincerity in his words. His apology sounded rehearsed, like something he'd practiced in front of a mirror. Still, she decided to hear him out. Go on, she said simply. I'm reaching out because Greenfield Industries has a new initiative underway, Howard continued. We're looking for consultants to help us streamline operations and improve efficiency. I immediately thought of you. Your expertise would be invaluable. Karoline listened quietly, letting him finish. When he finally stopped talking, she took a sip of water before responding. Let me get this straight, she said evenly. You fired me, treated me poorly, and now you want me to come back and help your company succeed? Howard shifted uncomfortably in his seat. It's not exactly like that, he protested weakly. Things have changed. We need someone with your skills, and I believe this could be a great opportunity for both of us. Karoline leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. For a moment, she considered accepting his offer, just to see the look on his face when she turned him down. But she knew playing games wasn't worth her time. Instead, she smiled faintly and spoke in a calm, measured tone. Howard, I appreciate the invitation, she said, but I don't think working with you or Greenfield Industries aligns with my goals anymore. I've built something of my own, and I'm proud of it. My focus is on helping others succeed, not fixing problems I didn't create. Howard blinked, clearly caught off guard by her response. Are you sure? He asked, his voice tinged with desperation. This could be a huge opportunity for you. I'm sure, Karoline replied firmly. If you'll excuse me, I have a busy afternoon ahead. With that, she stood up, leaving Howard sitting. A glamorous charity gala held in a grand ballroom with sparkling chandeliers and elegant decor. Karoline Leavitt stands near the center of the room, dressed in a sophisticated evening gown, exuding confidence as she chats with other guests. Nearby, Howard Klein lingers awkwardly, holding a glass of champagne, his expression nervous and hesitant. The atmosphere is lively, with waiters carrying trays of drinks and soft music playing in the background. In the distance, a large banner reads, Annual Business Leaders Charity Gala, symbolizing success and recognition. Months after her meeting with Howard, Karoline's career reached new heights. Leavitt Solutions was no longer just a small consulting firm, it had become a respected name in the industry. Clients praised her innovative strategies, and her reputation grew beyond local circles. Invitations to networking events, conferences, and galas poured in, each one marking another milestone in her journey. One evening, Karoline attended a prestigious charity gala hosted by the city's top business leaders. The event was held in a lavish ballroom adorned with glittering chandeliers and golden accents. She wore an elegant evening gown, its deep blue color complementing her confident demeanor. As she mingled with other guests, she caught snippets of conversations about her work, how she had turned adversity into triumph, how her insights had transformed struggling companies into thriving ones. Karoline felt proud, but grounded. She knew success wasn't just about accolades. It was about making a difference. Still, it was nice to be recognized for her hard work. She sipped her champagne, enjoying the hum of conversation around her, when she noticed someone familiar standing nearby. It was Howard Klein. He looked out of place among the crowd, clutching his glass of champagne tightly as if it were a lifeline. His suit was immaculate, but his posture betrayed his unease. For a moment, their eyes met across the room. Howard hesitated, then slowly made his way toward her. Karoline, he said, his voice tinged with nervousness. Fancy seeing you here. She smiled politely, though her guard remained up. Howard, I didn't expect to see you tonight. I suppose not, he admitted, glancing around as if searching for an escape route. I wanted to congratulate you again on your success. You've really made a name for yourself. Thank you, Karoline replied simply, waiting to see where this conversation would lead. Howard shifted uncomfortably, clearly struggling to find the right words. Finally, he blurted out, "I know I messed up before. Firing you was, well, it was a mistake. One I regret every day." Karoline studied him carefully. His tone sounded more genuine this time, less rehearsed than during their lunch meeting months ago. Still, she wasn't ready to forgive him. Not entirely. What mattered most was that she no longer needed validation from him or anyone else. "You're right," she said calmly. "It was a mistake for both of us. But I've moved on, Howard. My focus is on building something meaningful, not dwelling on the past." Howard nodded, looking genuinely remorseful. "I understand. And I hope you know I never doubted your abilities. If anything, I underestimated them." For the first time, Karoline softened slightly. She could see that Howard was trying, however clumsily, to make amends. While she didn't trust him completely, she decided to offer some advice instead of shutting him down. "If you want to avoid repeating the same mistakes," she said, her voice steady and kind, "start by listening to your team. People thrive when they feel valued, not dismissed. Trust me, I learned that lesson the hard way." Howard listened intently, nodding slowly. "That's good advice. Thank you, Karoline. Really." With that, their conversation ended. Howard excused himself, leaving Karoline standing alone in the midst of the bustling crowd. She watched him walk away, feeling a surprising sense of closure. The anger and hurt she had carried for so long had faded, replaced by understanding and peace. Later that evening, as the gala drew to a close, Karoline stepped outside onto the balcony overlooking the city skyline. The night air was cool and refreshing, a welcome contrast to the warmth of the crowded ballroom. Daniel joined her moments later, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "How did it go?" he asked, referring to her encounter with Howard. "It went well," Karoline replied, leaning into him. "He apologized again, and this time it felt sincere. But honestly, I don't think about him much anymore. He's part of my past, a chapter I've closed." Daniel kissed the top of her head. "That's because you've written a whole new story for yourself, one where you're the hero." Karoline smiled, gazing out at the glittering lights below. She thought about everything she had overcome, the firing, the uncertainty, the fear of starting over. Each challenge had shaped her into the person she was today, strong, resilient, and unafraid to chase her dreams. As they stood there together, Karoline realized she no longer carried any bitterness toward Howard or Greenfield Industries. Instead, she felt gratitude for the lessons she had learned, for the support of her husband, and for the opportunities that lay ahead. The road hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. Karoline Leavitt had risen above adversity, proving to herself and the world that setbacks were merely stepping stones to greatness. And now, as she looked toward the future, she knew there was nothing she couldn't achieve. A serene lakeside, home at sunset with warm, golden light reflecting off the calm water. Karoline Leavitt and Daniel stand together on a wooden balcony, gazing out at the horizon. The Rolls-Royce is parked in the driveway below, gleaming faintly in the fading sunlight. The atmosphere is peaceful and intimate, symbolizing contentment and new beginnings. In the background, tall trees frame the view, adding to the tranquil setting. As the months turned into a year, Karoline's life transformed in ways she never imagined. Leavitt Solutions continued to flourish, earning her recognition not just locally but nationally. Her innovative approach, combined with the power of the AI system, set her apart from competitors. Clients praised her ability to solve complex problems quickly and effectively. With each success, her confidence grew stronger, and so did her belief in herself. One evening, as the sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Karoline stood on the balcony of their new lakeside home. It was a modest yet beautiful place they had purchased together, a reward for all their hard work. The house wasn't extravagant, but it was filled with warmth and love, a perfect reflection of their partnership. Daniel joined her moments later, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. Together they watched the sun sink lower, its golden rays dancing across the surface of the lake. The air smelled fresh and clean, carrying with it the soothing sounds of nature. For a long while, neither of them spoke, simply enjoying the quiet companionship that came so naturally between them. "You've done amazing things," Daniel said finally, breaking the silence. His voice was soft, full of admiration. "I'm so proud of you," Karoline smiled, leaning into him. "We've done amazing things," she corrected gently. "None of this would have been possible without your support. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." Daniel chuckled softly. "All I did was remind you of what you already knew, that you're capable of anything you set your mind to." Karoline thought about those words, letting them sink in. She remembered the days after losing her job, when she felt defeated and unsure of her future. Back then, she couldn't imagine ever feeling this content or confident. But now, standing here beside Daniel, she realized how far she had come, not just professionally but personally. Her journey hadn't been easy. There were moments of doubt, sleepless nights spent worrying about finances, and countless hours spent learning how to use the AI system. But through it all, she had pushed forward, driven by determination and the unwavering support of her husband. And now, looking back, she saw that every challenge had been worth it. Down in the driveway, the Rolls-Royce caught the last rays of sunlight, its polished surface gleaming faintly. To anyone else, it might have seemed like a symbol of luxury or success. But to Karoline, it represented something deeper: resilience. That car had been more than just a gift. It had been a reminder that she deserved to dream big and aim high. "Still can't believe we live here," Karoline murmured, glancing around at the peaceful surroundings. "It feels like a dream sometimes." "It's real," Daniel assured her, squeezing her shoulder lightly. "And we earned it. Every single part of it." Karoline nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. They had sacrificed so much to get here, together. But they had also gained so much along the way. Their bond had grown stronger, their trust unshakable. Even the challenges they faced had only brought them closer. As the sun disappeared completely, leaving behind a soft twilight glow, Karoline turned to Daniel. "Do you think we'll ever stop working so hard?" she asked, half jokingly. He laughed, shaking his head. "Probably not, but that's okay. Hard work isn't a bad thing. It's what got us here. Besides, look at everything we've built." She followed his gaze, taking in the beauty of their home, the tranquility of the lake, and the promise of tomorrow. For the first time in a long time, she felt truly at peace. The past year had taught her that setbacks weren't failures. They were opportunities to grow, to learn, and to become stronger. "Do you remember when Howard fired me?" Karoline asked suddenly, her tone thoughtful rather than bitter. Daniel nodded. "Of course, that day changed everything." "It really did," she agreed.